Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Society of Chemical Industry Canada Awards Event. I'm Bob Masterson. I'm President CEO of the Chemistry Industry Association of Canada and Chair of the SCI Canada Awards Committee, and it's my honor to host today's events. While entitled the 2021 SCI Canada Awards, the truth is the award winners have been waiting very patiently. This event was to be held last March in Toronto, but of course had to be postponed because of the pandemic. So we do thank the award winners and all of you for your patience, and we're confident that we will be, well, confident, that's a strange word in today's times. We're relatively confident that we will be able to resume in-person programming for the awards event in March 2022, and look forward to seeing many of you there with us at that time. Before we kick off the awards program itself, certainly events like this don't happen on their own, and there's a number of people that we need to draw attention to and thank. First, an acknowledgement that much of the heavy lifting for today's virtual event was done by the SCI team in London, UK, not London, Canada, and that team consisted of Ian Bradshaw, Sade Bull, Mary Mahari, Sharon Todd, Christelle Person, and Theo Escort. Second, I want to acknowledge the work over the past 2 years by our SCI Canada Awards Committee, Tom Baker, University of Ottawa, Bonnie Schmidt, Let's Talk Science, Franco Berruti, Western University, Kathy Campbell, Responsible Distribution Canada, Andy Khalil, Woodbridge Foam, Fiona Hess, Ineos, Mohini Sain, University of Toronto, and David Emerson, formerly CCC Group, now retired. And finally, I do wish to thank the sponsors for today's event: University of Toronto, the Chemistry Industry Association of Canada, the University of Ottawa, Blackford, University of Windsor, Nova Chemicals, Ford, Let's Talk Science, Responsible Distribution, and CMHT. Before we begin the awards announcements, I'd like to inform you that I'm participating from Gatineau, Quebec, and this is the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin peoples. And I'd like to ask each of you to just reflect for a moment on both the need and the opportunity for reconciliation in your own communities where you're located today. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to welcome Sharon Todd, Executive Director of SCI, to say a few words of welcome. Sharon, over to you.
Thank you, Bob, and my welcome to everybody as well. I would also like to thank you, Bob, for your leadership of SCI Canada and getting us to this event today through some quite turbulent waters over the last 12 months. So thank you for your persistence. Also to Kathy Campbell and RDC for their support, to SCI Canada and obviously the committee for all of their great work to get us here today. So just a few words about SCI. I'm sure you know about the organisation, but we were established in 1881 by some quite prominent scientists, inventors and entrepreneurs. We're an eclectic society, we're an innovation organisation, and our founders came together to develop a community that would work together to promote, accelerate and help scientific innovation out of the lab into industry for the benefit of society. So very much focused on societal benefit of the day, which is obviously quite a core objective of today as we face the challenges ahead of us, in particular in net zero and the global health challenges. Our society objectives are based on chemistry and related science, and we're going to talk about chemistry and the crisis. And why is that the case? Well, it's twofold really. Chemistry is at the core of lots of things. It's needed for pretty much everything. Everything we do, we touch, we feel, needs chemistry. It needs a chemical element to create the innovation. And also it's a linking science, so it creates out into other, links out into other disciplines, and we are a multi-science and a multidisciplinary community, and that translation across different boundaries is a really critical thing for innovation and accelerating innovation. So in our community we have many different types of people from different types of places, making it quite an eclectic but unique organisation. And today the Society still continues to hold very much to its core charitable objectives of promoting, accelerating chemistry and related science out of the lab through industry to society to help the main challenges of net zero around climate change and global health, as we've seen very vividly with the vaccine development. So the community is international, it's collaborative, it's very passionate, and it is all about societal benefit. Moving on to SCI Canada. SCI Canada was established in 1902, so it's a very old part of the society. And the prestigious Canada Medal was first awarded in 1939. I think that's really important to recognise the long history that we have here today, and there've been many notable recipients of that particular medal over many years. And we're just delighted to see all of the award recipients today, both the major awards but also the student awards, which will be coming, as Bob said, the 72 from 2019, the class of 2019, and the 56 from the class of 2020. So congratulations to you all. And thanks, Bob. I'm passing back to you.
Okay, there we go. Thank you, Sharon. Thanks again to the team at SCI for your assistance in pulling today's event together. I'm very pleased to see that we're now up to 80 participants. We're almost getting to close to the level we would get for a normal in-person event, and that's very rewarding for those of us on the committee that have been working to pull the event together. So thank you to all of you, wherever you're dialing in from for today's event. It is now my honor to begin the formal SCI 2021 Canada Award announcements. And we're going to begin by announcing the recognition, as Sharon said, of both the 2020 and 2021 Student Merit Awards. Sade, over to you for the presentation of the Student Award winners.
Hello everyone, I'm Bonnie Schmidt, President of Let's Talk Science, a national organization committed to preparing youth in Canada for their futures. I'm also a member of this year's SCI Canada Awards Committee. I'm joining you today from my home in London, Ontario, which is situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenape, Attawandaron, and Wendat peoples. First of all, I want to congratulate all the award recipients for being honored today. It's a true testament to the impact and importance of your work. Now, it's my privilege to showcase the 2019 and 2020 recipients of the SCI Canada Student Merit Awards. Certificates are presented each year by SCI Canada to the best performing graduating undergraduate students from across Canada. The SCI Canada Student Merit Award is given annually to the student who has achieved the highest standing in the 4th and final year of a chemistry, biochemistry, or chemical engineering undergraduate program as identified by their host institution. In addition to completing such a program within 4 years, the recipient of the award must have attained a minimum average of 75%. Now please join me in congratulating the 2019 and 2020 recipients.
Wonderful. That's an incredible, impressive group of student award winners. The group consists of a very diverse set of individuals with diverse interests in chemistry from a diverse range of institutions from coast to coast. Let's take a moment though, Chair's prerogative, and special shout out to the award winners from Queen's University from a Alumni Science 87, congratulations. And I saw the name of a certain Miss Todd from Manitoba, and perhaps Sharon might say a word about that a little bit later. In any event, I'm sure you'll agree with me that the future of chemistry in Canada is in very safe hands and will have a very prosperous future as this next cohort takes over its responsibilities in the fields, the various fields of chemistry. Congratulations once again to our very deserving student award winners, and thank you again for the class of 2019 and your patience as we try to get ourselves organized in this pandemic environment. We're now going to present our next 4 awards: the Julia Levy Award, the Calif Boogie Award, the International Award, and the Lasur Memorial Award. So Sade, back to you, please. Thank you.
Good day. On behalf of Society of Chemical Industries, it is my pleasure to introduce the SCI Canada 2021 Julia Levy Award. Julia Levy Award is made in recognition of successful commercialization in Canada in the field of biomedical science and engineering. Thank you.
I am pleased to congratulate Dr. Lakshmi Kochhar on his receipt of the Society for Chemical Industries Julia Levy Award in the field of biomedical sciences and engineering. This award recognizes a leader in the commercialization of innovation in Canada. Dr. Kochhar is indeed a worthy recipient. Since obtaining his PhD at the University of Georgia, he has pursued a stellar academic career. Now a tenured professor at the University of Toronto and a senior scientist at the University Health Network. His broad research interests has ranged from diabetic neuropathy to infectious diseases to multiple sclerosis to medical cannabis-based therapeutics. His success is underscored by more than 100 peer-reviewed research publications and more than $25 million of research funding. However, Dr. Kochhar was never content to be a creative chemist. Just like Dr. Levy, he understood the importance of bringing lab knowledge to the marketplace. Fortunately for all of us, his entrepreneurial acumen matched his laboratory prowess. Based on one of more than 12 patent families, he has played a major role in the launch of Winsantor Biosciences, now in phase 2 trials in San Diego. He was a founder of Can Sciences Innovation, now through merger called Scientist Pharma, based on a novel extraction process he produced that is used in the manufacturing of products from cannabis. Only last year, he founded a new company, Lucid Psychoceuticals, to reverse neurodegeneration in MS. A committed internationalist, Dr. Kochhar also founded Cedeva Innovations with colleagues in India, where they now pursue anti-malarial drugs. In summary, a well-deserved award for a scientific entrepreneur with major accomplishments both behind him and, importantly, still in front of him. Congratulations, Dr. Kochhar.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the Nominator Awards Committee and the Society of Chemical Industry in Canada for this award, and it's an honor to be among the Julian Levy Award recipients. Certainly, the global vision is very important for Canada to be successful as an innovator and commercialization of those innovations, whether they're coming from academia or industry innovations, it doesn't matter. That is something that I would encourage everyone who is listening to have that global vision for and vision for global markets. In that context, as an academic researcher in medicinal chemistry and drug discovery, we worked in a number of areas: diabetic neuropathy, malaria, multiple sclerosis, medical cannabis, and several other areas as well, all of which led to almost 4 companies formations. Obviously, none of this would be possible without excellent mentors I've had and excellent team, my research groups, as well as my collaborators, and more importantly, I would also say my business partners. Commercialization does need excellent business partners to do that. So thank you to all of them. And finally, thank you to SCI Canada again for this award. I appreciate it.
I'm delighted to introduce the Calif Boogie Award. The Calif Boogie Award is sponsored by DuPont Canada and is given in honor of the memory of Calif Boogie, who contributed with his extraordinary research and talent to the process of nylon manufacturing, which has been adopted worldwide by DuPont. The award is made to an individual or a team of individuals for exceptional R&D contributions during the past 10-15 years, either in industry or in a research institution or in a university, that embody qualities of originality, creativity and determination, good experimental design and project management, and which had significant beneficial impacts on the industry and on Canada.
It is with great pleasure that I present this testimonial in honor of Professor Jamal Chowki. Jamal is an outstanding candidate to receive the prestigious award based on his leadership in integrating chemical engineering science into practice. Notably, his innovative and career-wise contributions helped to assess the complex behavior of multi-phase flow systems and provided a platform for the electrification of chemical process industry. Over the years, Jamal has received various significant grants. The originality of his approaches to meet industrial and market needs has created major industry partnership with Total, DuPont, OCP, and others in Polytechnic. Notable outcome of his collaboration with the industry include the development of 4 spin-off companies with his students. These companies are Pyrowave, Eclomondo, MRTech, and Pyrocycle, where the commercialization of the various energy-efficient processes and waste and biomass conversion takes place in the frame of a circular economy. Jamal's extraordinary achievements and legacy have been recognized through multiple awards and honors. In recognition of his wonderful contribution to academia and industry, this year the Canadian Society for Chemical Engineering has decided to publish a special issue of the Canadian Journal in his honor with the collaboration of internationally well-known scientists. As a former student of Jamal, as an established faculty member and a senior manager, I see Jamal's footprint well beyond the traditional boundaries of engineering. Therefore, I strongly believe that Jamal is a well-deserved candidate to receive your award for his exceptional achievements in research and development. A big thanks to the selection committee members for their excellent choice to recognize Jamal's contribution. Thank you very much. Rahmat, University of Tehran, Iran.
It is my great pleasure that I accept the Calif Boogie Award from the prestigious SCI Canada. C'est avec un grand plaisir que j'accepte le prix que le Cavell Boogie du très prestigieux SCI Canada. Calif Boogie Awards acknowledge exceptional achievement in research and development, which is of benefit Canada and the whole world. Indeed, I have been working on the development on innovative technologies and processes for conversion of waste, biomass, and complex raw material to produce energy, fuels, and chemicals. Thank you to the committee for choosing my candidacy, and special thanks to my dear professor and my dear friend Franco Berrotti for submitting my name. Merci beaucoup et je vous souhaite une très bonne soirée.
Good afternoon. Once again, welcome to this virtual award gala of Society of Chemical Industries, Canada. With immense pleasure, I introduce the next SCI Canada 2021 International Award. This international award is given to acknowledge outstanding service to an industry that is based on chemistry in the international sphere. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Caroline Hughes and I'm the Vice President of Government Relations for Ford of Canada. On behalf of Ford of Canada, it is my great privilege to be here today to recognize and congratulate Dr. Jimmy Chong for this prestigious award. Jimmy, thank you for everything you do every day for our company. Jimmy is the technical leader and managing director of our Powertrain Engineering R&D Center located at the Essex Engine Plant in Windsor, Ontario. Throughout his career, Jimmy has been a visionary for finding green and sustainable solutions for the auto industry. His work spans the range from lightweighting materials to carbon fibers to biofuels to low carbon fuels. You name it and Jimmy's probably done it. In addition to his work, he's also an adjunct professor at the University of Windsor, the University of Toronto, and McMaster University. And he still finds time to also mentor master's and PhD students, training the researchers in the workforce of the future. So Jimmy, again, congratulations on everything you do. Thank you for everything you've done for our company, and we hope you're going to be with us for a long time, continuing to innovate and educate and move the industry forward. Congratulations and thanks.
Good afternoon. I consider it quite an honor to even have been considered for such a prestigious international award. As a mechanical engineer, we seldom see overlap into our scientific realms. In my experience, this is also our greatest flaw. In my partnership with varying academic institutions and industry globally, I have met visionaries in climate change, sustainable energy, forestry, carbon emissions, and even medicines. And it is only with collaboration with other fields that we were able to innovate in such creative ways. I would personally like to thank the SCI Award Committee. But overall, I could not have been so productive all these years without the support and the love of my wife Jasmine and daughter Vinaya. Thank you.
The Lasur Memorial Award is presented to an individual for the development of the technical excellence in either a university, research institution, or industrial setting. The contribution to the Canadian industry should be provided through chemical creativity and innovation. It's honor and privilege to introduce the recipient of the prestigious Lasur Memorial Award, Professor Laurel Schaefer, Canada Chair in Catalyst Development at the Chemistry Department of the University of British Columbia. From early on, Dr. Schaefer was destined to achieve higher goals and to be first in many aspects throughout her illustrious career. As farm girl from Wellesley, Ontario, made the bold journey, she took the scenic route of Waterloo Regional Road 86, attends the University of Guelph, and get her BSc degree. With NSERC scholarship in hand, Laurel made another bold move to the University of Victoria in Victoria, British Columbia, and received her PhD. Armed with prestigious NSERC postdoctoral fellow, she made the boldest move in her learning journey to conduct research on metal-mediated organic synthesis at the University of California, Berkeley. She was recruited to the chemistry department of UBC and became the first woman in the history of the department in 2001. Please note that UBC was founded in 1908, and the chemistry department opened officially in 1925. The barrier was broken with a sonic boom 76 years later when she walked into the corridors of the exclusive male building. Publication by the hundreds. She publishes in the most prestigious journals like the American Chemical Society and the Anglo-Canadian International Edition and the likes. And she has essential patents on catalysis for her record. She co-authored several book chapters, more than 150 invited lectures and conferences and universities. Special mention is that she has been invited to deliver 10 state-of-the-art presentations in 5 different Gordon conferences. And Gordon Conference is the most prestigious specialized conferences in the world. The impact of Professor Schaefer's work include commercially available hydroamination catalyst, known as the Schaefer's titanium catalyst, which is sold worldwide. Not too many chemists, not too many scientists would have a name, a catalyst or chemical name after them. And the Schaefer catalyst is known around the world. Dr. Schaefer launched a startup company which featured recent advances in the hydroalkylation catalyst to prepare aminated materials with remarkable adhesive properties. She is a sought-after collaborator with scientists and engineers from around the world and within industries like Xenon, Nova, Nextera, Chemteco, Noram, and Zelicas Pharma, to name a few. She served on the board of directors for the Green Center of Canada. She is an associate editor of the American Chemical Society journal, Organometallics. Now, does she deserve this award or what? Please welcome Canada's pride and joy, Dr. Laurel Schaefer.
Thank you very much. I'm very appreciative of this recognition from SCI Canada regarding the work that we've completed here at the University of British Columbia. The Lasur Memorial Award is a really meaningful opportunity for my team to celebrate the accomplishments that we've realized in the field of catalysis and how it could impact Canadian industry moving forward. Since beginning my work in 2001 here at the University of British Columbia, my team has been focused on the catalytic synthesis of amine using the principles of green chemistry. We've targeted the use of underexplored early transition metals like titanium for applications as catalysts to make amines that are important for the pharmaceutical, agrochemical, and materials industries. One of the things that is a focus of our work is the atom economic transformation of petrochemically derived alkene starting materials directly to these amine products while avoiding wasteful deprotection steps. These advances have realized new approaches to make N heterocycles of relevance to the pharmaceutical and agrochemical industries, right through to new materials that display remarkable self-healing and adhesive properties. These materials are in fact the basis of a startup company out of my group that has recently launched. So this award, the Lasur Memorial Award, is an outstanding opportunity for our academic team to connect with the Canadian industrial community and highlight the achievements of Canadian women like myself within the field that can impact how Canada moves forward in this important industrial field. Thank you.
Wow, wonderful. Congratulations to Lakshmi, Jamal, Jimmy, and Laurel. You're a very impressive and deserving group of award winners. In a few moments, we'll continue the awards program with our final 4 award winners. And then we're going to turn our attention to a panel discussion on the very timely issue of the intersection between trust and chemistry during a time of crisis. And, you know, for the chemistry industry, especially the chemistry industry here in Canada, the question of trust in chemistry and chemicals is not new. And in fact, it was just over 35 years ago that Canada's chemistry industry and the broader global chemistry industry really did face a crisis of public trust. And this followed a series of very unfortunate and truly devastating incidents around the world. Some that led to tremendous loss of life, some that led to fairly significant contamination, environmental contamination, even here in Canada as a result of the industry's activities. It also came at a time when the industry had, let us say, non-existent to poor relations with communities and less than stellar relationships with its own workforce. We should take pride, though, that here in Canada, we were pioneers in the efforts to address this issue of public trust in the chemistry industry. And it's well before my time and many of you on this call, but 35 years ago, the industry in Canada did begin the long, difficult process of re-earning and sustaining public trust and confidence in the industry. That effort the industry undertook at that time was given a name. It was called Responsible Care. And the industry imposed on itself, by working with external stakeholders, very strong critics, a series of very revolutionary and far-reaching standards and codes of conduct that required third-party certification. And in fact, today, for Canada's, our industry association, the Canadian Chemistry Industry Association, to participate in responsible care is a condition of membership. You must demonstrate your commitment to building and sustaining public trust. That small seed that we planted here in Canada to try to overcome the challenges of loss of public trust and confidence in the industry, we're very pleased to say that that seed has truly germinated. It's spread worldwide, just the way seeds do. And responsible care is now practiced in more than 65 countries around the world. And we have more than 95% of the 150 largest companies, their CEOs have committed to implementing responsible care in all their operations worldwide. That's quite an achievement in a relatively short period of time, and it's truly an overlooked Canadian success story. We also take a lot of pride in that this responsible care example has been picked up by others, both in our value chain. We have organizations like Responsible Distribution Canada with their own responsible care initiatives, but we've also become a model. Canada's chemistry industry has become a model for other Canadian and global industries. Canada's mining industry has started an initiative called Towards Sustainable Mining. It's been modeled very heavily on responsible care, and it is now, like our initiative did, it is now spreading out worldwide. Countries like Australia, Botswana, Finland are adopting a Canadian approach to mining stewardship and maintaining and earning public trust in the mining sector. And so that's something we as Canadians and those of us in the Canadian chemical industry should take a lot of pride on. We're going to return to this topic of trust and the chemistry industry shortly with our panel. But in the meantime, again, do know that Canada is a pioneer in this area, and that while the work is very difficult and never ending, your industry is up to the challenge of building and maintaining public trust in chemistry and chemicals. With that as a short interlude, I should say, I'll now turn your attention back to our videos with Sade, and we are going to present the final 4 award winners for the 2021 SCI Canada Awards. Thank you very much. I'll be back to you shortly.
Hello, my name is Tom Baker. I'm a chemistry professor at the University of Ottawa, and today I'll be introducing the winners of the Purvis Memorial Award, which recognizes a major contribution to the development and implementation of strategies that strengthen Canadian research in chemistry. 1 year ago, Canada's Chief Science Advisor, Mona Namer, collaborated with Canada's Departmental Science Advisors, U15 Research Universities, and Compute Ontario to launch CAN-COVID, a national network of health sciences and policy researchers to facilitate COVID-19 research collaboration and communication. This network has already seen an impact in reducing the spread in long-term care facilities, emphasizing the importance of indoor ventilation to control bioaerosols, and to study the impact on children for their safe return to schools. So for their part, in the rapid rollout of CAN-COVID, today we recognize Dr. Cara Tannenbaum, Health Canada Science Advisor and University of Montreal Professor of Medicine and Pharmacy, and Dr. Sarah Gallagher, Canadian Space Agency Science Advisor and Professor of Physics at Western University. Congratulations on your fine work and on winning this award.
When COVID-19 hit Canada in a significant way during March 2020, it became apparent that it would impact many aspects of our society. Diverse expertise and collaboration would be needed to tackle the enormous challenges. But how could we bring people together to focus on the public good and enable rapid scientific response through easy and timely access to information when everyone was physically apart? This is what Dr. Sarah Gallagher and Dr. Cara Tannenbaum are being recognized for with the Purvis Memorial Award. In the span of just 2 weeks, Drs. Gallagher and Tannenbaum teamed up to create CAN-COVID, an online rapid response network to expedite communication and collaboration between the scientific, healthcare, and policy communities. You may ask, how does this all relate to the chemical industry? Well, if we look at different aspects of the COVID-19 response, we can actually see chemistry in many different places. The materials used to make masks, diagnostic sensors, the cationic lipids used in the new RNA vaccines. But in all of these cases, chemists are working collaboratively with other disciplines, and that's exactly why a collaborative platform like CAN-COVID is needed.
This award means a lot to us because it celebrates ideation and transdisciplinary teamwork. I was working as a departmental science advisor for Health Canada in March 2020 when the pandemic broke out, and I dreamed of being able to connect Canadian scientists working on COVID from coast to coast with each other but also to connect them in rapid response real time to government decision makers, to share solutions and problem solve across disciplines. I turned to Sarah and I said, how can we turn this idea into reality?
As a space scientist, I felt sidelined by the health crisis. My skill set was not obviously useful. When Kara approached me with the problem, I thought about the effective tools, both technical and practical, that we use on large astronomy teams to coordinate big projects, such as planning next-generation space telescopes. I also knew lots of bright people not directly involved in the pandemic challenge who wanted to help.
And that's how CanCOVID was born, an online experiment for organizing, collaborating, coordinating, and communicating the use of science across Canada. Those early days a year ago were a whirlwind, reaching out to our networks, leveraging all the talent we could find, getting hundreds of junior and senior scientists, industry folk, and government decision makers to join up and participate in the first 2 weeks. A warm thank you to the Awards Committee and the Society of Chemical Industry Canada for the honor of choosing the development of CanCOVID for the Purvis Memorial Award and for recognizing it as a Team Science Award.
Our Chief Science Advisor, Mona Namer, was our first champion, and the early support of the U15 group of universities was essential. Our Deputy Ministers, Stephen Lucas and Sylvain Laporte, gave us the endorsement to make it happen. We had an exceptional steering committee. Mark Daly and Alex Mihalidis guided CanCOVID planning. Vivek Goel put concrete support behind the effort. Hallie Siegel's communication chops, Kimberly Colburn's tech wizardry, my unused policy know-how, and Chloe Payne's admin skills were all key to CanCOVID's implementation and success. CanCOVID was a team effort, and we gratefully accept the Purvis Memorial Award in that spirit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, award winners, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to tell you about SCI Canada's newest award for community outreach. The award is given to any Canadian organization or person who has continually raised the awareness of the chemistry industry from an educational perspective. The winner has demonstrated a sustained effort engaging the public of all ages in learning about the merits of good chemistry with proven, evidence-based information. It is my honor and privilege to present this inaugural award to Dr. Joe Schwartz. Dr. Schwartz is director of McGill University's Office for Science and Society, which has the mission of separating sense from nonsense. He is well known for his informative and entertaining public lectures on topics ranging from the chemistry of food to the connection between the body and the mind. Recently, his office has focused on trying to unravel the mysteries of COVID-19. Thank you for that, Dr. Schwartz. Professor Schwartz has received numerous awards for teaching chemistry and for interpreting science for the public, and was the first non-American ever to win the American Chemical Society's prestigious Grady Stack Award for demystifying chemistry. He was awarded the Montreal Medal, recognizing his lifetime contributions to chemistry in Canada, and he also has been awarded honorary degrees by many universities. Professor Schwartz hosts the Dr. Joe Show and has appeared hundreds of times on television. He also writes a newspaper column titled The Right Chemistry and has authored 18 books. He has podcasts, is active on YouTube, and he's an amateur magician that often spices up his presentations with a little magic, which I was witness to when he presented to our association. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Joe Schwartz.
I'm truly honored to be receiving this award for my efforts at educating the public about science. For over 40 years, I've tried to separate sense from nonsense on the scientific stage. As you can see, I'm surrounded here by ducks. Why? Well, they remind me of the importance of confronting the promoters of pseudoscience, the quacks. Truth be told, trying to demystify science for the public can be a puzzling experience. I wish it were as easy as solving puzzles such as this. Indeed, when you know how to do that, it is indeed very simple. But it isn't that easy. Thanks again for the recognition that you have bestowed upon me.
Good afternoon. It's my distinct honor to introduce the 2021 SCI Canada Medal. The SCI Canada Medal was first established in 1939 and it's awarded for outstanding service to the Canadian chemistry industry. Canada Medal Award winners are business leaders in the Canadian chemistry industry who have made very clear positive impacts to their business and to the industry at a larger level, and typically they're recognized for the contributions either to business success, market and product development, and or to contributions to social and environmental sustainability. It's a distinct pleasure to recognize the 2021 SCI Canada Award Medal winner, Noshad Jumani, recently retired Senior Vice President of Nova Chemicals.
Hello, my name is Todd, and I had the distinct pleasure to know and work with Noshad a great many of his 40 years at Nova Chemicals, ending with his retirement in October 2019. Today it is my honor to personally congratulate Noshad as the winner of the SCI Canada Medal, in richly deserved recognition of his long-standing and tireless support of our industry. He has clearly had a positive impact on chemistry-based business in Canada. His largest impact, and enduring legacy I believe, is in the area of economic growth and development. He helped drive investment and growth as a first mover in a massive wave of investment across North America. His efforts were instrumental in leading the team that secured 2 presidential permits for pipelines from the US to Canada. One bringing ethane from Pennsylvania and the Marcellus shale fields, and the second from North Dakota Bakken shale. This happened in parallel when similar challenges were in front of the Keystone Pipeline sponsors trying to get permits for their own Canada-US border crossing. This new feedstock availability and his leadership efforts to ensure federal and provincial support drove material economic development by Nova of over $1 billion in Alberta and kicked off $2 billion of investment in Ontario. These were game-changing first-mover actions, bringing investments into Canada and decreasing reliance on imported crude oil by transforming our Corunna site to 100% ethane. He led the change from the long-standing typical flow of feedstock going to the US from Canada. During the same time, he supported the Chemistry Industry Association of Canada as an active board member, helping to shape policy in support of our industry. Clearly, government took notice of our statesman-like colleague, and he was asked in 2016 to chair the new Resource Diversification Council of Alberta, which was tasked by the province with finding ways to add value to the province's oil and gas resources. Noshad, my sincere congratulations on earning the SCI Canada Medal. We salute your service and success to your company, your industry, and Canada.
Thank you, SCI, for this recognition. Thank you, Bob and the CIAC. Thank you, Todd, for the kind testimonial. And congratulations to all of my fellow award recipients. Today, I've been singled out for service to Canada, But this country has given me and my family far, far more than we can ever give back. It is indeed an honor to be of service to my country, Canada. Thank you to my wife, my daughters, my co-workers, my business and government colleagues, and all of my past leaders who have helped, supported, and guided all of my efforts and achievements. Thank you indeed. Canada has been blessed with an amazing set of raw materials and resources. The opportunity before us today is to use our principles of responsible care and our scientific knowledge to add value to these resources for the benefit of this precious planet. Lastly, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to attend this SCI event. Thank you and have a great day.
Well, certainly that's extremely humbling to hear the details of the incredible contributions that these three individuals and our other award winners have made, especially at a time when many of us measure our own success by simply surviving through the day and living to fight another day. These are testimonials to a lifetime of service to their companies, to their science, and to their institutions, and as mentioned, to their nations. So we sincerely congratulate all the award winners, each and every one of you. You are indeed an inspiration to all of us. That does officially close out the awards portion of today's program. And once again, I'd like to thank SCI UK, the awards committee itself, our sponsors, the award winners, and at one point we had 90 participants, the 90 participants who have been with us today. We're now going to transition to the panel discussion on the important topic, as mentioned, of the intersection of chemistry, science, and trust during a time of crisis. It's my honor to introduce the moderator for the panel, Dr. Joe Schwartz of McGill University, who you've just met virtually. Dr. Schwartz will then take over and introduce the rest of the panelists and lead the discussion. Dr. Schwartz has been very well introduced by Kathy Campbell, and there's nothing that I have planned to say that she hasn't already said. I would encourage you, though, if you haven't seen it, Dr. Schwartz did have his latest installment in the Montreal Gazette today, demystifying some of the uncertainties around the various choices of COVID vaccine that Canadians are confronted with today and will be in the months to come. And spoiler alert, take whichever one comes your way. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Schwartz and our panel. Thank you, everyone, once again. I'll be with you at the close of the panel. Dr. Schwartz, over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. And we all love chemistry. Unfortunately, not everyone does. And it's hard to understand why not. To me, it's always been such a fascinating science. In fact, I think science, chemistry, is the science that is the thread that ties all the other sciences together. Because if you have a good feel for what molecules are and what they can and cannot do, you have a pretty good understanding of what can and cannot happen in the world. As you heard, I've been involved in this business for a long time. I've had a radio show in Montreal now for 41 years. It is the longest running radio show on chemistry in the history of the world. Of course, it's the only chemistry show in the history of the world, so I can kind of cherry pick data with the best of them. Anyway, you know, when I first got started in this, I used to get questions like, why does a shower curtain get sucked in when you're taking a shower? How do 2-in-1 shampoos work? If nothing sticks to Teflon, how do you get the Teflon to stick to the pan? Those are typical questions that I got, but you know what? Times have changed. Now I get questions about shower curtains, but it's likely to be about the phthalates that are poisoning us in the shower curtains, or shampoos that contain parabens. And as far as the nonstick cookware goes, I'm more likely to get sticky questions about the health consequences than about the cooking properties. In general, questions tend to be in the how much should I worry about blank category. And depending on what's been in the news, the concern may be over fire retardants in upholstery, drug residues in drinking water, formaldehyde in bras, diisocyanates in mattresses, bisphenol A in canned foods and cash register receipts, trichloroethylene in groundwater, dioxins in meat, mercury in vaccines, pesticide residues in our food, or radiation emitting from granite countertops. Curiosity about what we can do with chemicals has been replaced by fear of what chemicals can do to us. And I have lots of examples, that I could entertain you with that I've come across in my interactions with the public. But let me just give you one to start the ball rolling here. I had a question from a caller on the radio show asking me if it was safe to burn a laminated picture. Well, I wasn't sure what this was all about. And it turned out that the lady had a laminated picture of her husband, whom she had just divorced. And I guess it wasn't a very happy situation because she wanted to burn this memento, and her tendency was to throw it into the fireplace. But she knew a bit of science, and she knew that laminated pictures were glued onto a backboard of particle wood that had been glued together with urea formaldehyde resin, which is actually correct. And she knew that formaldehyde was potentially toxic, and she worried whether or not the formaldehyde that was released from the fire when she threw the laminated picture in there, would it be a problem for her? Because of course she wouldn't entertain any prospect of her former hubby having the last laugh. So I launched into a discussion that I've done many, many times, which of course dates back to Paracelsus in the 16th century. Only the dose makes the poison, which of course is the cornerstone of toxicology. So we discussed this, and I said that, look, the amount of formaldehyde that is likely to be released from there is not consequential. But I said, look, if you really want to be on the safe side, don't burn the picture, put it out in the recycling bin where you would put toxic waste. And she said that, yeah, she could agree with that because her former husband was indeed toxic waste. So these are kind of questions that get us into the discussion of what chemicals are all about, and what chemistry is and what it isn't. And when you think about it in your own daily life, just how often do you hear the word chemical that is not preceded by a pejorative like dangerous chemical or toxic chemical, poisonous chemical? Chemicals are thought to be synonymous with toxins. On the other hand, chemistry does a little bit better as a science. Many people, of course, recognize the importance that it plays in the pharmaceutical industry, cosmetics industry, in the food industry, etc. But nevertheless, they look on it askew. We do not have a very good public image. Much of that, of course, is because of the supposed relationship to mad scientists. When you see pictures, in cartoons of chemists, they are always depicted as if they were mad. And I guess that goes back to the time of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the first time that sort of the horror of science was presented to the public of what happens when science goes astray. Anyway, so we do worry about these kind of things. We're concerned about how the public sees us, and what is realistic in terms of worry and what is not. And that's what we'd like to discuss here today with our panel members. Let me just go over a quick introduction because two of them you have already met. You met Lasur Giovanni just now, who has recently retired from Nova Chemicals, where he was vice president, did a lot of public policy, and I suspect knows a great deal about polyethylene, the most widely used plastic in the world, because Nova produces that. You also met Dr. Sala Gallagher, who's a professor of physics and astronomy at Western University, but also is a scientific advisor to the Canadian Space Agency. And our third invited guest is a graduate student in chemistry. Lyndon Swick is from Midland, Ontario, but right now he's in Thunder Bay at Lakehead University. And his undergraduate degree was in biology and chemistry, and now he's a master's student in chemistry, but he wants to be a doctor and help people in Northern Ontario. And he's going to be a great mate in discussing chemistry here because I guess he realizes that chemistry plays a very, very important role in medicine. So with that background, we're going to get the discussion going here. And I'd first like to ask each of our panelists about their personal experiences, whether or not they have somehow encountered chemophobia, the fear of chemicals, and whether or not they think that their encounter was realistic in any way. So perhaps we'll start with Lyndon, because he's been studying chemistry, and he's got access to a lot of friends, I imagine, who are studying other disciplines. And I suspect that at parties and meetings, the topic of his being in chemistry comes up. And he gets asked the question, what are you doing? So, Lyndon, what are you doing and why are you in chemistry?
Yeah, so thank you for the introduction. It's really nice to be here today. So as Dr. Schwartz said, I'm a master's student in chemistry. I'm specifically working on an organic synthesis project. So yeah, as far as chemophobia goes, like some of my friends who aren't in chemistry, and a lot of my friends are, I would say, in like the trades. A lot of them are like carpenters and like plumbers and whatnot. So they don't necessarily have a very solid background or you know, just a good understanding of what chemistry is and how important it is to their daily lives, right? So say if you know, after I'm in the lab and like whatever, we're hanging out or something like that, if I was working with a chemical that's, you know, kind of smelly or something like that, they're like, whoa, you're not bringing cancer into the house, are you? Or something like that, because a lot of chemicals are kind of linked as carcinogens or something like that. And I just don't, again, as you said, the dose is what makes the toxin. So they don't realize just because my hands smell like acetone, for example, I'm not going to be directly causing any horrible health defects to them or something like that. So my experience with chemophobia is rather minor amongst my friends, but I can definitely see in society how there is a negative association with chemicals and it just inherently being bad.
Now, Nashad, you've been dealing in industry. And I suspect that you've received complaints about chemicals causing all kinds of harm in the world, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I overtly experienced any direct chemophobia events, but you're right. As a leader of our kind of part of the business, we're constantly challenged by both the public, the communities that we operated in, as well as government officials for information that would satisfy them that, in fact, what we're doing and the chemicals we're producing are safe for them. And believe me, we spend, at least I'm talking about my experience at Nova Chemicals, we spent a fair bit of time doing a lot of research, a lot of work with third-party agencies to gather the data that is necessary to address concerns like that. And these are all valid concerns. And you know, I'm kind of proud to say that Nova was a leader in terms of adopting responsible care. In fact, we were a pioneer founder of that whole responsible care initiative back in the 80s. So we take that as a positive challenge. I mean, the more we can accommodate responses, positive responses, educational responses to those individuals, and I think the better it is for the industry as well as all of us. So I've had a fair number of positive interactions in that regard. The only, I would say, chemophobia event that I recall from my experience was at a meeting with local community members, which is something we do as part of our responsible care certification that Bob mentioned. I was very quickly challenged by a local community person about what Nova was doing to get itself out of business. Her reaction was that, you know, unless you show me that you were actually working on a long-term strategic objective to get out of plastics business, I won't be satisfied. So that was a rather aggressive interaction, but in the end, I think it worked out very positive because we were able to sit down with her after that common meeting session and help her better understand the role of plastics in terms of materials and how they play a very essential role in making our daily lives safer, healthier, and happier, I might say.
Okay, well, we'll get back to the plastic story because, of course, that's a huge deal these days with all the concern about microplastics and plastic pollution of the oceans. But let me go to Sarah, who's a physicist. And I know
that's right.
The physicists think that they have the fundamental science, right? So there is always this debate between chemistry and physics, which is more fundamental. But I'm sure that you encounter some anti-science views as well in the area of physics. And I know that since you're an astronomer as well, I bet you get questions about aliens and UFOs and a lot of pseudoscience in your area. So what has been your experience with championing science?
Absolutely. I mean, it happens. The topic is different, but it's absolutely something that happens. You know, astronomers look at radiation, right? So radiation is a similar word that it seems sort of scary and loaded, but is actually to some extent sort of meaningless, right? It goes from something that's very dangerous to just light. So I've been challenged in lots of ways, and I think anyone, I'm also active in outreach and talking to the public about the work that I do, and pretty much every single time I give a public talk, I'll get, in terms of challenges, one is, yeah, that's really cool, but why should we support that? So that's the sort of the challenge of discovery science. And then also just, I don't believe you, you know, the world's only 6,000 years old, and how could you have stars that are that far away? And so, I mean, so what I would say is that sometimes people are, it's my practice to just try to engage with people, understand what it is they're really worried about, and where they're starting from, so that we can, sometimes it's a matter of just people don't know what the words mean, and you have to explain the context and what things mean. And I think in that case, you have to be patient, and it is our job as scientists to share that knowledge with other people. But other times there's just, I mean, if somebody believes the world is 6,000 years old, I mean, at some point there's just not much you can do about that. If I want to talk about looking at, you know, the early universe and they don't believe that it actually exists, I mean, so I think you have to figure out where you can pick your battles and where you can move people and really focus your efforts there.
Yeah, I mean, this is of course a challenge, and this is something I face on a daily basis, is why people believe the unbelievable. And you know, this is happening across the world of science. You know, see all the anti-vaxxers now, and the people who claim that HIV doesn't exist, and all of this. And I've always emphasized the importance of education, and especially early on in life, because I think if you can get kids interested in elementary school, you've probably got them for the rest of the time. You know, you got to spark that curiosity, and it can be done easily enough in elementary school. Now, the reason I bring this up is because I didn't have a very good experience in elementary school, or in fact in high school. In elementary school, I basically no science at all. The chemistry that we had in high school was dreadful. We never did an experiment. We drew diagrams of experiments, but we never did any kind of miracle that I did get interested in chemistry. So I mentioned that because I'll bring back Lyndon here, since you are much closer to elementary education than the rest of us. How was your science in elementary school and high school?
Yeah, so my experience with just chemistry and science in general, I guess, would be a little bit different than yours, in the sense that we were doing experiments. We did have, I guess you could say, a wet lab, in the sense that there was real chemicals there. So we were exposed to that I guess I was exposed to that from a younger age. And even in elementary school, I think grade 6, we were already building like models of a cell, and just like kind of understanding like fundamentally what is like the basis of life. Everything consists of cells, right? But I definitely agree that you know, getting the concepts of science and just the scientific theory, I guess, at a young age is really important. So I do a lot of work with Let's Talk Science, and at Lakehead there's a Niji Indigenous mentorship program, where we're specifically working with youth and just trying to get them interested in not only post-secondary education, but also just science in general. So they're just kind of better equipped moving through their life. They can kind of take in information and formulate their own opinions and hopefully come up with ones that are based on facts and just kind of more accurate. And ultimately, keeping engaging in science at a younger age is going to facilitate more people wanting to pursue that in the future, which is ultimately going to be better for society as a whole.
I'm glad to hear that you had a good experience, and I think that we're doing much better now than when I was that age. And certainly with girls, we've done much better. When I look out at my class of whether it's organic chemistry or whether it's my class on food, I look around and the majority of the students are female. In our medical school now, about 60% of the students are female. So we've certainly done a pretty good job there. But science literacy is critical because, as we've all been mentioning, we make scientific decisions every moment of our life, not necessarily thinking about it, but you get up in the morning, you decide if you're going to have coffee or not, and if coffee, what kind, regular or decaf, and if decaf, what kind of decaf? Are you going to use the dry cleaning solvent or the Swiss water process? For lunch, are you going to eat meat or vegetarian? Drink water, and if what kind of water? Filtered water or tap water? Supper, you decide, what are you going to cook? What are you going to cook in? Is it copper or stainless steel or aluminum? I mean, people worry about these things. I get questions about aluminum all the time. Should we be cooking in aluminum? Because they've heard of a connection with Alzheimer's disease, which is actually non-existent. I've been cooking in aluminum all my life, and I don't remember any problems. And anyway, I mean, these are the kind of things that come up. But let me get back to the plastics business with Nashat, because you deal with this all the time. And boy, what a change since the movie The Graduate, when it starts out with the classic line when the friend whispers into young Benjamin's ear, plastics, this was the coming thing. Young Benjamin wasn't all that interested in that. He was more interested in getting into Mrs. Robinson. But boy, have things changed. Now the word plastic has become a dirty word. And of course, we see all kinds of pictures in documentaries on the internet of the bottles floating in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and we see all the stuff washed up on river sides and lake sides, on beaches, and then we read about microplastics being found in our bottled water. What is going on? Is there some way that we can kind of lay a lot of these fears aside? I mean, obviously, the industry has to do something about that. We do need to recycle more. We need to emphasize that. I'm glad to see that the soft drink industry is actually trying to do that. They're making a big play for recycling. But what does the Canadian plastics industry say about what it is going to do to try to cut down on plastic waste?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Schwartz. Yeah, you're absolutely right that this is a huge perception issue for the plastics industry. I don't believe it's an existential issue, but here's what the industry is doing today. The Canadian plastics industry, along with the American plastics industry, are collaborating. Companies have put together a fantastic program called the Alliance to Stop Plastic Waste. They've committed something like $15 billion to address this issue of collection, recyclability, doing research, and being able to go to an economy where plastics get recycled and get reused. That's an area that, unfortunately, the industry didn't spend too much time on during that movie that you referred to. Back then, plastics was seen as the new steel and the new material that's going to bring prosperity to the world, and in fact, it did. Plastics has been a miraculous material for the entire planet, especially this day. We've got 8 billion or almost 8 billion people living on this planet, their lives would be horrible without plastics in the world. Now, that doesn't mean that it's okay to have plastic waste in the oceans. It doesn't mean that it's okay not to have facilities and infrastructure to invest in recyclability, collection systems, and to find uses for that material that in fact captures that carbon molecule for a much longer period than simply putting it in a furnace someplace and burning it. So the industry is doing a fair bit on that. NOVA is a very key member of that alliance to stop plastic waste. But NOVA has also allied itself with some other companies on a project called Project Stop, which is to actually go in and clean up some of the beaches in the areas in Asia that are just inundated with plastic waste that comes across on the ocean tides. And in fact, they're using some test projects, some areas where they can test the use of their solutions that industry can then upscale to the rest of the area. And it's been a very successful program so far. I think the industry is recognizing that part of their sustainability challenge is to have a very credible and very obvious and a very visible solution to managing plastic waste. Ultimately, I think it's an issue of our behavior. It's the behavior of human beings around the planet that needs to be addressed. It's no longer acceptable to just take your groceries out of the bag and just dump the bag out of your house or out of your car or out of we've seen so much plastic waste gather around roads, and that's just a horrible visual, and in fact adds to that perception that you referred to, where plastics is viewed as chemicals. It's just bad for us. I think the challenge really for the industry is to use those responsible care principles and use that as a foundation to demonstrate to the world that we can in fact handle this issue.
Sarah, this past year, as the Queen would say, has been annus horribile, the horrible year. But science has also come to the forefront. It has been in the news more than ever, obviously because of discussion of COVID and what the disease really is, how it spreads. We've heard about aerosols, the concept that most people had never talked about before. We talked about the legitimacy of data, how one knows that hydroxychloroquine doesn't work. We've learned a lot about the vaccines, right? The different kind of vaccines. We've been privy to analyzing the data, what it means if something is 94.5% effective as opposed to the 72%. I mean, we hear these kind of numbers all the time. So what do you see as kind of positive outcome of this terrible year that we've had?
So as a science advisor to the federal government, I think this has been a really has just showcased how essential science is. That it really, when you have a crisis like this, that you need to get all hands on deck to really tackle it. And to the fact that vaccine went from nothing to starting to be put in people's arms within such a short period of time is just a testament to the fact that the scientific community was engaged, industry was engaged, government was engaged. We were united in a common purpose, and the fact that it happened so quickly and so safely, also all the protocols were followed. It was the same process. It was sped up and scaled up, but it was the same process. Was just remarkable. I mean, it shows what happens, and when we are aligned internationally in a common purpose, and I think it's very promising for tackling things like climate change, which are going to need a similar kind of alignment in order to really make progress. In terms of science literacy, it's been really interesting as a science educator to see the conversations that are happening on social media and also just in the news and journalism, and as you said, people are discussing the names of different vaccines, which for experts who study vaccine hesitancy, like that never happens. That this is, this is now part of the common lingo. People are talking about R values for how quickly the virus spreads. And as you mentioned, aerosols, things like that. So I think it's really showcased the complexity of the issues. Initially, so many people were frustrated in the public because they said the rules keep changing. And of course, yes, they did keep changing because information changed and we learned new things, and this was brand new. And so I think that's something that I would say in the course of a year, I think the public in general is a little more comfortable with that. The idea that you will adjust your policies and your practice in response, in light of new evidence. And so that's quite remarkable that sort of thing has happened. And also the level of uncertainty and the fact that there's risks. There's a risk if you get a vaccine that you're going to get sick. But there's a much bigger risk if you don't, that you're going to get COVID, which is going to be a lot worse. And so people now have to weigh those relative risks in a way that, in a very sort of in-your-face way that I think often hasn't happened in the past. So it's been, and the other thing that's fantastic is how many different groups have just taken the initiative to educate the public. There's some fantastic organizations, Let's Talk Science, of course, and there's Visions of Science, which is an organization in Toronto. There's groups in Montreal that have taken upon themselves to reach out, to communicate with communities, to explain the vaccine, to get doctors from those communities who can talk to who have trust in those communities to talk to them. And so there's also lots of novel experiments that people are doing with science communication that I think are really exciting and really innovative, and that we can carry that forward with future challenges such as
you brought up the topic of trust, which of course is a very important one. And it's so interesting, because I interact a lot with the public, and they're willing to take the word of some self-appointed guru on the internet who may have a very seductive message. They're willing to take that word and ignore what the scientific community says. Virologists and infectious disease experts who spend their life looking into this problem, who know the nuances, who can tell you that in a variant in a virus, which amino acid has been replaced by another. And they have deep expertise. And then you have someone on the street saying, well, no, I don't believe that. And they will refer to some internet guru. This is what is so disturbing, these days. But we keep working, trying to get the message out of the risk-benefit ratio. That no matter what you do, there's always some risk associated with it. It's just a question of benefit. And I think when you have reasonable people who are willing to listen, you can get the message across. There is a subset of the population whose minds are made up. These are the dedicated anti-vaxxers, the anti-chemical people. You're not going to convince them. But there's a good segment of the population who legitimately are confused these days, because let's face it, this is the age of misinformation and good information. It's difficult for many people to discern between the two. I think it's up to us to try to clear up the confusion. For example, so many people say, well, how could they have come up with this vaccine in such a short time when previously it took minimum of 5 years to get a vaccine onto the market? But we have to explain to them that they didn't start from scratch. They didn't start the vaccine process last March. Messenger RNA vaccines have been in development for about 15 years. And this just was the catalyst for getting it on the market. And when backs are against the wall, that's when people come to the fore. So I think we need to engage them. And I think we have to be polite, even with the scientifically illiterate people. No one likes to be told that, that they're dumb. And usually they're not, they just don't have enough background. And we have to find the right language to try to clear up their confusion. So I don't know if we have solved any problems here, but at least, we've, I think perhaps alerted people to some of the interesting ideas that one has to deal with when dealing with the public. And I'm convinced that education has to play a very large role in this. It's very hard to convince someone, you know, in one single public talk, because they kind of have to convince themselves from the inside, and that comes from really delving into a subject. So we need to encourage education at an early level, and I'm glad to hear that Lyndon had a good experience with that. So maybe just one final comment from each of you. Lyndon, maybe where you intend to be in the future and how you think you're going to use your chemical background.
Yeah, absolutely. If I may, I just want to make a quick comment about science literacy, which, so I was having a discussion with somebody, I was actually my research supervisor, and we were just kind of talking about, you know, what might be discussed on this panel today. And the idea of science literacy is so important. So if you think in Canada, the elementary school and high school system, there is standardized testing for English and reading skills, mathematics. But she made a very good point to me, and she said there is no standardized testing for science literacy. And I'm not saying that people need to understand like the Bohr-Rutherford model of an atom to be considered science literate, but they should be able to, you know, what is the scientific process? Like, can you navigate through peer-reviewed information versus just junk that somebody just posted on Instagram to go mainstream? Like, being able to kind of take in science information and formulate accurate thoughts, I think that's really important. So I think that's something that the education system could probably maybe improve on a little bit, is promoting science literacy. And again, not that everybody needs to know specific science facts, but just having a good understanding of what science is and like what it's actually trying to do for society. But so where I see myself, I definitely see you know, myself continuing to be a science believer and a science lover, and going to continue to try and sway the naysayers that science is bad, and just try and educate as many people as possible. And that's a great challenge that future physicians, which I aspire to be one day, might be facing with some of their patients with the rhetoric of anti-vaccination and instead of taking drugs, I'm going to take home the little sugar pills instead. So I think as a physician, you do need to be an educator to your patients. Again, like you said, Joe, you don't want to just tell someone that they're dumb, but it is tough to completely ignore facts. So I'm definitely going to see myself as a science advocate and an educator for sure.
Now, Shad, you've retired, but like everyone else in the world, you're going to be a practicing chemist, because you're going to keep eating, you're going to keep drinking. All of that is chemistry. What else is in the plans for you?
I agree with Sharon when she said that chemistry is at the core of everything. So it's very important in everybody's lives. I want to go back really just to this title of this theme that says, you know, crisis in chemistry, and you know, again, just to remind everybody that you know, the human population has faced many crises, and a lot of good things have come out of those crises. So it's not not surprising that the Japanese and the Chinese, the word crisis is meant or contains elements of both danger and opportunity. And you know, when I see how the COVID thing happened and how it developed and how it changed and how we changed our reaction to it and how industry changed its reaction to it and how science changed its course to meet this challenge, I'm actually quite an optimist. You know, I think that a lot of good things have come out of this. That's going to stay with us. I think we're going to be in far better shape to handle future pandemics like COVID than we were this time around. You know, unfortunately, it comes at a cost of some significant number of lives around the world. But I think that we're going to just use the knowledge and the experience to become better at. And this applies to everything. It's not just COVID. I would apply the same analogy to this whole plastic waste issue. I think we're going to end up in a better place once we address and solve the problem. Unfortunately, we're dealing with a public that really wants information within one sentence or two sentences or a Twitter cap. And for us, the challenge is going to be, how do we carve out our message so that it is in fact simple? You know, it's great to have all of the facts, but once we get into the facts, we really bore people very quickly. So we've got to find a way to solve that issue.
Sarah, we'll leave the last word to you. I mean, I bet last year at this time you never thought that you would be talking about COVID. You were up in the stars at that time, right?
It's really changed my perspective. Absolutely. So in terms of the issue of communication, I think there's a lot of research on how you effectively communicate to different people. So we don't have to guess, because people have done a lot of hard work to figure this out. And in terms of trust, that is absolutely essential. And the person who's in the lab coat, who's the virologist, who knows all the data, is not necessarily going to be trusted by different communities who've had perhaps really terrible experiences with people in lab coats historically. We have to acknowledge that there's like a reason that certain communities don't trust, the establishment, and that they have legitimate reasons for not trusting. And we need to acknowledge it and be accountable and then move forward. And one of the ways is to engage those communities, to engage trusted parties as partners in trying to, for example, get people vaccinated. And part of it is people want to be healthy, they want to be happy, they want to look after their families. We all have common motivations. But it is important to meet people, where they live and acknowledge their lived experience, and also who they do trust in their communities, and engage them. And there's some really fantastic work that's been doing, with science educators working with community organizations and that sort of thing. And I think that model is really effective.
Very good point. And of course, science is like a race towards the finish line. It's a process. And we never quite get there, but we're always getting closer and closer to that finish line. All right, we have run out of time. I think we've gone a few minutes over, but it's been an interesting discussion. And get vaccinated if you can. And don't ask questions about which vaccine. They're all good. They have a great deal of research behind them. This is not like going to Consumer Reports and looking for the best vacuum cleaner to buy. This is like asking a question, do you want a vacuum cleaner or no vacuum cleaner? Vaccination is a possible way that we're going to get to herd immunity. And it's all based on science and chemistry, with a little bit of physics in there too.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Schwartz. Thank you, Anoshad, Sarah, and Lyndon, for your timely and thoughtful input on this topic of science and trust during the time of crisis. I think we do have to be honest with ourselves as a chemical industry, Society of Chemical Industry, that we do face challenges. And even in the broader sciences as a field of human endeavor, we do face challenges. And we can't hide from those challenges, and we can't bulldoze our way through them. We have to be open to dialogue. We have to be patient, and we have to be responsive to what we're hearing. And to pick up on a point that Noshad made, we got to stop digging our own hole. In the area of plastics, for example, we're now in this position where we know and we're committed to recycling and recovering materials, but we're using this language of advanced recycling and chemical recycling, and it scares the hell out of everybody. So they're now demanding that we return water bottles to water bottles, whereas when we look at our steel industry or we look at our aluminum industry, no one expects an aluminum beer can to go back to a beer can. It just gets recovered and recycled into aluminum. So we're setting ourselves up for some pretty serious failures again in terms of the language we use and trying to, I think, sometimes be too smart with our words rather than just telling the people, look, we're committed to recycling plastics and let us get on with the job. So lots of challenges ahead of us, and maybe that's a topic for next year's panel. That does bring us to the close of today's events. And once again, I want to thank SCI. I want to thank my colleagues for their patience having me as their chair of this committee for the past 2 years as we struggled to pull an awards program together. I do congratulate sincerely again all the award winners. Wonderful. Thank you, Sade. Thanks again to all of our sponsors for the contributions to make today's event a success. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Sharon Todd at SCI, and she'll announce the timing of our next SCI Canada Awards and close out today's session. Once again, it's been an honor to be your host for today's event, and thank you for staying with us. Sharon, over to you.
Thanks, Bob. So again, congratulations from us to all of the winners. Bob, you did spot my young niece, Lucy Todd, in the University of Winnipeg there. I'm a very proud aunt, but I don't want to pick her out specifically because they are the next generation and the future generation, and it's really important that this event is linked to the major awards, and that's always been a deliberate policy for SCI Canada, linking the next generation in. So well done to everybody. Technical excellence, chemical creativity, leadership and innovation, responsible care around the world, biofuels, new materials, green chemistry, building businesses, professor of physics, the professor of medicine, and can COVID is spawned. There's a huge amount of creativity, diversity, and excellence in science, invention, and entrepreneurship, all very much alive and kicking in Canada. And it's been a really inspirational event that the committee have put on, Bob. So thanks to you again, thanks to the SCI committee and everybody else behind the scenes for such an engaging and inspirational event. And I'd just like to leave with some positives. I really liked Nashad's comments about, you know, sometimes crises can create real opportunity and real momentum for change. And Sarah's comments about maybe we can take some of the learnings about COVID and the huge acceleration of innovation and translate that to climate crisis that we also now face. So some real sort of positives from there going forward. But it's been a fascinating session, and just thanks from us to everybody, and congratulations again to all the award recipients. And I think the event, I don't know whether there's one final slide. So we usually do this in a face-to-face with a glass of wine and a nice meal and celebrate and spend some time together. But just to announce that the event will be running hopefully as a face-to-face again in Toronto next year on the 24th of March. So please do stick the date in your diary, and the committee will be in touch. So thanks again, Bob, and back to you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Sharon. And I think we are just about right on time. Thank you to all the participants again. Wherever you are, stay safe, stay well, and get vaccinated as soon as you have the opportunity, so we can resume our normal scheduled events. Can't wait. Thank you, everybody.